Hey guys, it's Magic Prepper. Just want to do a video today about the different types of holsters for your sidearm you might want to have in case there's an SHTF scenario. If that ever happens and we're in a situation where you have to have a sidearm with you at all times, what's the best way to carry it and what different types of holsters work better for that application? I own a ton of holsters because I've been always trying to find like the perfect fit, right? But in that experience, I've come to learn like what works better and why I think certain holsters are going to be better for a scenario where you're bugging out or even possibly just having to work a patrol or whatever it might be. So right now I'm wearing way too many firearms, but I wanted to kind of demonstrate the different ways you can carry and maybe alert you to something you weren't aware of before. So right now I've got the shoulder holster. We've got the outside the waistband holster. We've got the inside the waistband holster. There's also a pocket holster. And then at the same time, now don't get excited, we have the wearable holster right here. Okay? So, I was going to go through and kind of explain the pros and cons of all the different holsters, and also I just kind of felt like seeing how many different firearms I could wear at the same time. So we'll go ahead and get started. Alright, so here we have the proverbial drawer full of holsters that everyone who has an affiliation with firearms seems to have in their house, right? These different holsters have different applications and they're made out of different materials, but they're all meant for sidearms, obviously, for the reason that that's what we're mostly discussing today. At the same time, each of them has its own unique variable that kind of gives it an edge in one way or another over different scenarios that might arise. But at the same time, I do think that there are benefits to some of these holsters that outweigh the rest of them. And if you had to pick one, that would be something to discuss and figure out the exact best situation compared to what it is you're going to be doing. But at the same time, I think any of these will at least serve some kind of a purpose for you if you ever find yourself in an SHTF scenario. So we'll go ahead and talk about the different types. We'll talk about the different ways of how they're carried, and we'll also explain, some of the reasons why I think there's kind of a clearer answer of what's better in that scenario than the rest. So we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so my first pick for a holster that you're going to use in a post-apocalypse scenario or a grid down or whatever it might be is going to be the outside the waistband style holster, preferably in Kydex. Why do I say that? Well, first off, it's going to be the easiest to access if you need it quickly. Secondly, most of the Kydex holsters are extremely durable. They're not going to get degraded by being exposed to moisture. And at the same time, a lot of them have some kind of a retention device. I'm not necessarily 100% sold on having an actual retention activated required device, but at the same time, I think it does come in handy. If you do take a stumble, roll down that hill or whatever it is that happens, you want your firearm to stay with you. And I don't think that most retention only or slide style holsters have enough security there for me to feel comfortable, especially if I'm running around in the bush. So this one right here is a Safariland. I have it set up in the low ride position, which we'll get to later, but it does do a really good job of retaining my firearm. It does have a little bit of an activation button right here, so you just push it back with your thumb and then the firearm comes out, not a problem. Okay, so we put that back in there, and you can see if you were to run or if you were to have to quickly deploy your firearm, this is the easiest way. It's natural, it's right next to you, and at the same time you're going to have the speed factor on your side. So my number one choice for SHTF style holster is going to be an outside the waistband Kydex holster, but there are reasons why the other ones are viable, and I think they still have a place, and you might have more than one option with you just because there's different reasons why you might want to maybe wear one inside the waistband. So we'll go ahead and talk about the other style holsters now. Okay, so the next holster on my list here is going to be an inside the waistband style holster. I generally like the hybrid style ones that have either a leather or maybe a neoprene backing, and then they have clips that come over the top of your pants and attached to your belt. I am a concealed carry holder, so I do wear a firearm regularly, so I use these holsters more than any other holster. I do think the outside the waistband Kydex style holsters are better for an SHTF scenario, generally just because they are easier to access. They do a good job of retaining your firearm, and all in all, they're going to work better with wearing a pack or a chest rig or something along those lines. So this doesn't mean that these holsters aren't useful though. Right now, I am actually wearing my inside the waistband holster. So we'll go ahead and just show you that right here. It's right here on my side. Obviously, it's very hard to see. And because of that, I think that there's applications that you might use it for if you ever have to sneak around, or maybe you're entering an unknown camp and you have to work your way in there without looking like you're armed to the teeth, okay? I think the inside the waistband holsters go really well with the gray man theory as well. If you're trying to draw as little attention as possible and get yourself in the clear without having everyone and their mom looking at you and asking, hey, maybe we want to take that person's stuff, hiding it and not letting everyone know you're armed and not giving away the fact that you might have ammunition, which at a certain point would be scarce or rare, is a good thing to do. I think it definitely has a purpose, and it is still easy to access. I mean, you just move the shirt, you get a good grip, and you pull out and you're good to go. But that being said, inside the waistband holsters do not go well when it comes to wearing a backpack or some kind of a like a Minuteman setup, right? So because of that, I think that they have limited application, and at the same time, they can be worn as an outside the waistband holster. Some of the ones I have actually can have the clips moved around to the back of the holster so that you can actually wear it as an outside the waistband holster. It's still way up high on your waist though, and that's not going to do you well for a waistband on a backpack or something like that. At the same time, I don't think that retention only with a hybrid backing of either leather or neoprene is good enough for an outside the waistband holster. I feel like the point of the outside the waistband holster is to have the easiest accessibility and not let something degrade. And honestly, over time, this would degrade a lot faster than something that was 100% Kydex, okay? So that's what I think about the inside the waistband holsters, but they would be number 2 on my list because they have that application of being the easiest to hide. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next one. Alright, so another holster option, which I'm not the biggest fan of, is the shoulder holster, right? Shoulder holster is good for concealing a firearm that might be larger than average, and as long as you have a jacket or a heavy coat on, no one's going to notice, right? But, I mean, sometimes it's the only way to go when you're limited on what you're able to wear or do at that point in time, okay? So there's a reason why you see like detectives or FBI agents wear shoulder holsters. They usually wear it under a blazer, and sometimes it's just because it does kind of stay out of the way. It allows you to have full range of your hands and arms, but I just don't like it. It requires a cross draw for it to be efficient. Trying to wear it backwards like I was earlier underneath your arm is not going to go well for you. And at the same time, it's bulky and it's in the way, and putting it on and taking it off is just a huge pain. I don't think it has much application in an SHTF scenario because of wearing backpacks or wearing any other kind of chest rig or whatever it might be. It's going to be in the way and it's not going to be efficient, okay? Now, if you're going to carry a giant 454 Casual Ruger Red Hawk in a shoulder holster because you're going to shoot buffalo all day, then I understand. But all in all, not my favorite option. I think if it's all you have, it's not a bad way to go in the sense of better than nothing. But it has a small purpose, and I wouldn't completely weigh them out as an option if maybe you have certain circumstances, okay? The other side of it is that this one is made out of nylon. If you have nylon holsters that you're relying on, please do yourself a favor and get something better. Nylon is just not as durable as leather or Kydex is going to be. It holds moisture, which is not good for your firearms, and it's just lesser quality. You're going to find yourself wishing you would have bought something a little bit higher end. So do yourself a favor, get rid of those nylon holsters, other than maybe a pocket holster if that's what you need to use. But this is just my opinion on a shoulder holster. You have to reach over, undo your little snap, right? And then you have to pull out, try not to strafe yourself, and then display. So not my favorite, and I think you guys can see why. All right, number 4 on this list is going to be the pocket holster. Pocket holsters are pretty much specifically made to conceal a very small firearm in your pants pocket for one of 2 reasons. You either are limited on what you can wear and it's the only way for you to conceal the firearm that you can carry, or it's because you don't feel like putting a holster on every day and you don't want the discomfort of having a firearm, sticking into your side or into your back. So you sacrifice size of firearm and you downgrade to a smaller one and stick it in your pocket to make life a little bit easier. Now, I'm not against either one of those reasons you have behind doing it for what you do, but all in all, it's not going to be your best bet in a SHTF scenario. First off, your firearm's not very secure. Your pocket is just that. It's a pocket. If you fell upside down somehow, your firearm might fall out, right? Second off, you're going to only be able to use really small firearms for a pocket holster. So I wouldn't want to bet my life in an SHTF scenario on the smallest gun I can possibly find. So, you're already excluding a lot of, more efficient firearms than what you can actually use in a pocket holster, okay? And then the other side of it is, I don't know if you've ever used a pocket holster, but I did for many years because of my work uniform. I was required to wear office business casual. There wasn't a good way for me to conceal a firearm with an inside the waistband holster. So I, went to a Ruger LCP and carried a pocket holster style firearm for a couple years. And if you haven't had that experience before, I'll tell you that you sweat all over your firearm, you sweat all over the holster, and eventually that firearm is going to be ruined because you're just sweating on it 24/7, especially in a bug out scenario where you're doing a lot more laborious activity than what you're used to. So not my favorite. It's hard to access compared to other holsters. You're not going to win the game of speed if you're going against an outside the waistband holster. And at the same time, you're limiting your firearm options by trying to use a pocket holster anyway. Not very secure, and I also just don't like having to reach in my pocket hoping I'm going to pull the firearm out just the right way, okay? So I can show you right here that I've got my pocket holster. You can't see the firearm, but you can definitely tell there's something in my pocket, which is always kind of an issue with pocket holsters. But you can reach in your pocket, pull out your firearm, and then hopefully the pocket holster doesn't come with it. But I think if you've used them before, we've all ran into that at least once or twice, right? So pocket holsters have kind of a grippy outside on them. They're usually made out of nylon. Firearm goes inside, at least the trigger guard is covered, and then the grippiness on the outside of the holster is supposed to stick to your pocket, so that way you can just pull the firearm out by itself, okay? They're not the worst thing in the entire world, and I do think that there's applications for them, but especially in SHTF or bugging out, it's one of the lowest on the list of something I would plan on using or want to have with me. All right, so last holster on the list, which I generally never use, and I think it's a popular kind of commodity item. It looks cool, it makes it seem like a good idea when you start looking into it, but all in all, it's inefficient and it's very hard to access, and you're not going to be able to pull your firearm out quickly if you ever find yourself in a bad situation. However, there's one caveat. I think that there's other purposes that this style of holster serve, especially in SHTF, that might come in handy, okay? So I'm not going to say that this is the worst thing ever to have, and I'm not going to say you shouldn't buy one. I'm just going to say if you're going to use it for carrying a sidearm, it's not going to do you any good, especially in SHTF, okay? And what is that? It's the wearable holster, where you combine your clothing and your holster into one, okay? So currently I have a compression shirt that has holsters built into the armpit area, okay? So right now I have a firearm underneath my armpit, right? So worst case scenario, you have a shirt on over it, somebody, causes a problem, you have to either rip your shirt open, unbutton it, or whatever you got to do, reach in there, there's a little hook latch in there to make sure it doesn't fall out if you're doing anything vigorous, so you got to unhook it, then you got to pull it out, and then you can finally deal with whatever situation has arisen. So, do I think it's a great holster? I don't. I don't use it. I never wear it. It's too hard to access the firearm. I mean, you just saw what I had to do there, and this is in a controlled environment. I'm not panicked. I'm not scared. And there's also, I mean, I'm sure there's a level of practice that could get you a little bit more formidable in that department, but I just don't think it's worth it, okay? However, here's the caveat part. I do think these shirts have a really good application for SHTF. And why is that? Because there's these pockets underneath my arms on both sides of the shirt, okay? These big pockets that I can fit a wallet in, I can fit a flashlight in, I can fit a lot of stuff in these pockets. And if you are traveling, or if there's an SHTF of some kind, it's nice to be able to store some of your valuables and your goods in a pocket location that wouldn't normally be necessarily searched or sought after, right? When you're dealing with pickpockets and stuff in the streets, are they going to be searching for your under the armpit pocket? Generally not. Is it covered by a shirt so people don't even know you have it on? Yes, it is. And at the same time, you know, let's say you've got some, you know, silver with you, or you've got cash or something like that. You don't want other people to know you have it, and maybe you are worried about getting mugged, and somebody says, you know, give me everything you got. They're not going to second guess the fact that you didn't reach into your shirt and grab the stuff out of your armpit pocket, right? So yeah, it can carry a firearm. For that application, I don't think it works very well. But for carrying, you know, your passport, if you're out traveling in a country where you're worried about the idea of being pickpocketed, or for carrying some kind of tradable goods in a grid down scenario where everyone's gone back to precious metals or cash or whatever the currency might be, right? It's a really nice way to carry stuff hidden from the public eye, and even if you do get yourself into a situation where maybe there's someone, you know, trying to mug you or something like that, very rarely are they going to say, wait, check the armpit pocket, you know? So I do think it has good application for SHTF. I just don't think it has the application we're talking about right now, which is for carrying sidearms, okay? So those are the different holsters I wanted to talk about. We can go into a little more depth, the different style of holsters for each category of outside the waistband, inside the waistband, etc., etc. But there is a couple things, you know, I'll touch base on here before, you know, this video's over. So besides that, you know, that is our list of the 5 different sidearm holsters I think are most readily available, and the order of which I think they have the best application for SHTF, okay? Alright guys, so I was just going to go ahead and demonstrate real quick why I said that the inside the waistband holsters generally aren't the #1 choice for this situation. So you can see right here I've got it on my hip. Obviously if the shirt was over it, you wouldn't even know it was there. But I wanted to show you it so you could see this demonstration, okay? So I'm going to pick up one of my bags here. Okay. And then, as you can see, the waistband is right on top of it, okay? So, do I want to be able to access my firearm? Yes. Does the waistband prevent me from doing so in a relatively easy and fast way? Yes. So that's why this style of inside the waistband holster isn't my #1 choice for an SHTF scenario. Okay, so now I've got my outside the waistband holster on in a low ride configuration. The reason for the low ride configuration is so that it has the amount of space required to be able to use a waistband on a backpack, okay? That's why I set it up this way, and it's the reason why I like the outside the waistband the most for the SHTF scenarios that might occur, okay? Some people like to wear the thigh rig holsters. That's fine. If you like that and that's your thing, go for it. The drop leg style is very popular. It's very tactical, right? For myself, I just never have had good luck with it. So I prefer a solid Kydex holster in a low ride configuration over the thigh rig style holsters. If you like the thigh rigs, nothing against you. If it works for you, that's great. And they also have the same application of being allowed to wear a waistband from a backpack while wearing your holster the right way. So I'll just go ahead and demonstrate that like I did with the last one and show you that this does work. And it's the reason why I prefer carrying outside the waistband over inside the waistband in SHTF. Okay? So as you can see, holster is not impeded. firearm's not impeded. I can access it if I need to, okay? And we're good to go, okay? Good retention, it's not going to fall out, nothing's banging it, the belt's not touching it. I can still get it right away if I need to, okay? So that's what I was saying before about why the inside the waistband holsters, even if they can be reconfigured to be outside the waistband holsters, still don't have that low ride configuration available, and that's why I don't think they're the best option for an SHTF scenario for your sidearm holster, okay? You know, we'll go ahead and depack. And then I got one more thing I want to show you. Alright, so I also just wanted to show you guys the three main materials that are used to make holsters and why I think Kydex is probably the best option. You know, there's the nylon one here in the back, then we've got our Kydex right here, and then we've got leather right here, okay? I've had experience with all three, and I will say nylon's going to be your worst bet, okay? The nylon holsters are generally cheaply made. They are sewn together, so you have hems and different threadings that are going to be susceptible to wear and tear. At the same time, they have a bad habit of holding on to moisture, which we all know is bad for our firearms. And they're just not as nice. There's no real retention. They're not molded to fit the firearm correctly. So because of that, they're not as good for holding onto your firearm. They're also not as safe. All in all, I just got rid of any old nylon holster I had laying around unless it serves a specific purpose like this shoulder holster did, until I decided I didn't want to wear a shoulder holster probably ever again. Okay. Then the next is going to be leather. Leather is, you know, time tested. It's proven to work well. It's been around for centuries as one of the main ways to carry a weapon, even if you want to talk about sword scabbards or something like that, right? Leather does a good job. It holds up well. It's got enough give to where you're not going to break your leather holster, but at the same time, it can be rigid enough to actually give your firearm a little bit of natural retention, okay? Would I trust a leather holster in an SHTF scenario? Yeah, I probably would, to be honest with you. Would I choose it over a Kydex holster? No, I don't think I would. And the main reason behind that is that Kydex is specifically molded to your firearms, and it also doesn't get affected by moisture. So, you know, leather can still eventually become susceptible to moisture, whereas Kydex will not. And the molding to your firearm that Kydex can do creates the best type of retention. So it's a little bit more safe in the sense of making sure that your firearm is going to stay secure. At the same time, they usually have a mechanical device that allows for you to make sure that there's also a secondary factor before your firearm decides to jump out of the holster. So there's a lot of good reasons why the Kydex holsters work well. They also accept different accessories and different styles of attachments to make them wear on your belt the way you want to. You know, I can change out from a paddle style attachment to a belt slide style attachment to the low ride attachment that you saw me have earlier. So I think that the benefits of Kydex outweigh all the other materials that we use currently for holsters. There's nothing wrong with leather holsters. I just think Kydex are better. There is something wrong with nylon holsters, but if that's all you got, at least you have something. Plan on trying to get something better, please, okay? But just wanted to show you the differences there and give you guys some ideas of the different types of holsters for SHTF. I wanted to show you the reasons why I think some are better than others. I wanted to show you the different materials that are available and the different configurations that you have to choose from. And hopefully you learned something from this video. You know, I am just giving you my opinion. Like I said, you know, this channel is me growing and learning to become a better prepper per se. So, you know, any of your advice or opinions you can leave in the comments below. I'm more than happy to, you know, entertain new ideas. And at the same time, you know, that's going to be it for Magic Prepper.